Hey guys, I'm Dimension Jumper. Today I'll be doing my top 5 Zelda characters that could get their own Echoes of Wisdom based game. Now, with Echoes of Wisdom being released a while ago, as of time of recording, that game has been so much fun to play through because not only is it the very first Zelda game where Zelda is the main character, but one of the things that I do like about the game is that it's a very different style of combat because with Echoes of Wisdom you mainly use all the different echoes, whether that's any of the enemies or any of the um, or the side stuff like the trampolines or the beds to help solve puzzles or to help fight different enemies or the bosses and stuff like that. And whereas with the main Zelda games or the other Zelda games, um, it was mainly just sword combat stuff like that, and there was a bit of that in Echoes of Wisdom, but that's more of a limited amount of time you can use that sort of combat. And yeah, I feel like if we do get to see more games like Echoes of Wisdom, we could see more games like that with other characters from the Zelda series, whether that's from any of the mainline games, where some characters might have appeared once or twice, or been in or they might have appeared in a spin-off game, and they might appear have a chance to appear in a mainline game or something like that. So yeah. So for number 5 is Ravio. Now, this I feel like it could be interesting to have a mainline game sort of as a character to be in, is that sort of thing, because Ravio, even though he's a counterpart to Link, I feel like he's very different to how Link is done in when we are introduced to Ravio, because in the game that he's introduced in, A Link Between Worlds, he's shown off, well, it's mainly shown as a bit of a coward, but then at the very end of the game, we are seen to see Ravio being a bit more heroic, and I feel like if we do get to see something like a Ravio based game, we could see something like that, where Ravio starts off being a coward, and then throughout the course of the game, he becomes more and more heroic, and his battling style could be very different to Link's, and more specifically, his combat could be something similar to how we see in him in Hyrule Warriors, because with Hyrule Warriors he uses a variety of weapons, mainly the ones from A Link Between Worlds, so the hammer, the ice rod, the boomerang, the fire rod, that sort of thing, and we could see throughout the course of the game, Ravio just finding a particular item throughout each of the dungeons or whatever. If there are dungeons or temples or whatever in that game, and then we see like, oh, it's a particular enemy that can only be defeated by the weapon or the item that we found in the previous dungeon. And for his base weapon, he could use his sack that he has around with him and stuff like that. So yeah, having Ravio, I think this is more of a starting off point with Ravio specifically for this list. So yeah, Ravio kind of like could be cool, and yeah, so yeah. For number 4 is Lana and Sia. Now, they are both from Hyrule Warriors, and I feel like even though Hyrule Warriors is a spin-off game, I feel like Lana and Sia do and could possibly fit well into the Hyrule lore if there was a game that they appear in, if there's a mainline game or it's their own game. And I feel like if it's their own game, it could be something related to their backstory in or from Hyrule Warriors, because a bit of spoilers if you haven't played Hyrule Warriors, but Lana and Sia were originally the same person before Ganondorf split them apart, or I think it was Ganondorf, and with Lana being the good half and Sia being the bad half. And I could see something like this happen if like they have their own game. So we could have something like the start of the game, both Lana and Sia are in the original form, and then we find out, oh, mysterious things happen, then they're separated. And it could be a thing of like we could see through Lana's storyline and then Sia's storyline, and they could run parallel with each other. So like Lana's trying to protect all that's good with Hyrule or wherever the area of the world is they're in, and Sia is trying to take over that part of the world or something like that. And depending on which one you go with, it's always like different routes, talk with different people here and there, and using like different magics and stuff because they both have different magics. So like Sia she uses more dark magic. With Lana, she uses more good magic and stuff like that. Kind of it's self-explanatory because they're basically good and evil and stuff like that. So yeah, and with if they were like dungeon areas, they could be similar but different puzzles and stuff like that. So something like with Lana, she could use like her book of sorcery to summon lightning and stuff like that, or use a Deku spear to summon a Deku sprout. With Sia, she can use her whip spectre of time thing to like grapple onto faraway objects and just pull them closer towards the switch or something like that. And yeah, that'd be something quite cool to see, like something like that. Or it could be their own Hyrule Warriors game, maybe. But I feel like another Hyrule Warriors game could be interesting. But I feel like a more mainline Zelda game or something like that could be interesting, and the whole parallel storyline thing could be interesting to see. So yeah, for number 3 is Linebeck and Tetra. Now, I'd originally put these two characters on separate points or separate parts of the video, but I feel like because of their nature and because of they are both pirates or pirate-themed characters, I feel like these characters could have their own game either together or separately. So I feel like because they both love the adventure and both are pirates or have pirate themes to them, so like Tetra has her own pirate crew, and Linebeck loves going in search of swashbuckling stuff and just going out to find treasure and stuff like that. I feel like it would be something quite cool to see them having their own games and be like, oh, go into this dungeon or go into this cave, find some treasure, and then fight the boss for that treasure or stuff like that. And if they have their own games, that could be cool. But it would be, I think, a lot more cooler if they if they both interacted with each other, because they technically appear in or live in the same universe world area, because they kind of meet each other in Phantom Hourglass, but I think they don't really interact with each other a whole lot. And if they have their own game, it'll be, I think, quite cool to see them interacting with each other and sort of like at times finding a bit of treasure and then fighting over it or something like that. And then throughout the course of the game, they have to work together because the main villain has stolen something that's precious to them or something like that. So yeah, seeing a Linebeck Tetra game would be really cool to see. So yeah, for number 2 is Groose. Now, Groose is probably one of pretty much a fan favorite character from Skyward Sword, because he has a very clear story arc, because he starts off of the game as the neighborhood bully of Skyloft, and then at the end of that game, he grows to respect Link and then helps Link fight the imprisoned, as well as save Zelda from demise. And I feel like him having his own game could be interesting to see, because the story could be something like that, something like him finding or starting up the Gerudo tribe, or or basically the Gerudos basically, and it could be something like that, because Skyward Sword is an origin story. Everything has an origin, and Groose is pretty much the origin or the starting off point of the Gerudos. And I feel like we could see something like that, where Groose is trying to find out where he wants to start his own community or something like that, or start a new base settlement for all of the Skyloft residents to hang out in or something like that, and then that could lead into the Gerudos. And yeah, I could see something like that, and Goose could be making up his own book called The Legend of Goose, and he could be selling it to everyone like, oh, here's how I did this, this, and this, and he could be exaggerating some of the points from Skyward Sword, and there could be another plot maybe, but I feel like Goose. Well, I think Goose will be having a game based on Goose could be cool, just having its own sort of game. Maybe there could be quests where he just stumbles into random encounters with enemies, and him just being, oh, okay, and just builds something because it is showing that Goose has the means to build stuff. So because we have the Goosinator, and we could see him just building stuff like, okay, I've made this new invention. It can do this, this, and this. It can shoot ice or fire or whatever, and he uses it on the various enemies that he encounters and stuff like that. So yeah, it could be something really cool, and I think Groot would be an interesting character to have a main game focused upon. So yeah, and for number 1 is Impa. Now, Impa, I would say, is probably, for me personally, a character that most definitely could have a game based upon, because Impa is a member of the Sheikah tribe, and the Sheikah tribe are well known for protecting the royal family, and I feel like a game like that could work, and I feel like Impa being the main character in that game would be so cool to see, because the Sheikah are basically these cool ninja characters, and throughout the course of the game we have seen bits and pieces of them, and I think the most we've seen out of them is probably Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, and I feel like there could be a game like Impa starts off in the village just training, and then she gets appointed to be appointed to be Zelda's bodyguard or something like that, and throughout the course of the game she becomes more well known throughout the royal family and probably the Kakariko village, and then by the end of the game she's appointed the head of Kakariko village or something like that. And yeah, that'd be so cool to see, because Impa is such a well-known character within the Zelda series, and she has appeared throughout the variety of games. And yeah, and also she could, because she's a sage in Ocarina of Time, there could be a part of the game where she undergoes a trial or various trials to become a sage or something like that. Yeah, and yeah, I think it would be so cool to see how, because this could be Zelda's version of Assassin's Creed in a sort of way, because you could sneak around various enemies, just attacking them from the shadows, from various bushes or stuff like that, and just using a variety of ninja type skills or stuff like that. And you can have like different Sheikah outfits. So like you've got the base one, so that's like, oh, it's good. It's a good all-rounder. It's good in any environment. Then you've got one that's good for the Elden area. That you've got one that's good for Lanayru or area or the Faron area or stuff like that. And it'd be so cool to see just like using like different skills and stuff like that, and just being a Sheikah, because being a Sheikah sounds cool and it looks cool from Hyrule Warriors, because both Sheik and Impa both have like ninja based skills and stuff like that. So yeah, it'll be something quite cool to see. So yeah, so that's been my top 5 characters that could have their own Zelda game. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.